My name is Chris DeFaria, and I'm a President of Digital Production, Animation, and Visual Effects at Warner Brothers. So what that means is as an executive, I oversee all of those areas. I oversee all the visual effects that are in our feature films. I also oversee the development of animation and ultimately the production of animation. And then also this strange area we call digital production, which is going to be any movie that is sort of a hybrid film that relies heavily on the tools of visual effects. So that could be anything from a Gravity to a 300 to Where the Wild Things Are, of course the big superhero movies, those sorts of things. Most films arrive as a script and they land on my desk sometime, well in advance of most of the time, well in advance of anybody being part of it. Maybe there's a director, maybe a star is interested, maybe just, the president of the studio has read something that he likes. But it lands on my desk, and the very first thing I'm supposed to do is take a look at it and then very quickly meet with the head of the studio and kind of give an assessment. What do I think this movie could be, should be, when could it be done? Is there anything innovative or different about it that might distinguish it in the marketplace? And that conversation we have fairly early on. Quickly after that, other people are going to come aboard. We're going to get a director aboard, then we're going to obviously go about the process of casting. Producers come in. And then they're going to begin shaping the film. But I think the very initial conversation we have about a script, when we first have it, is probably the most important one, because it's at that point that we sort of really do a general artistic and market assessment of it, because we're really not interested in making a movie that's not going to, well, one, perform, of course, but also that's not going to be distinct, that's going to have something that's going to point to unusual advertising, that's going to bring an audience in to see something that they haven't seen before. If it doesn't meet that test early on, then it probably doesn't get past the front door. So later, when people come aboard and we start planning the movie, a big part of my job is the planning of the film and sourcing technology that we might use on it, bringing talent onto it that to fill in all the various things, from whether they're department heads or actors or cast, and then begins the production of the film. And on that, it's a day-to-day overseeing of the film. And then we sort of follow the normal production plan. We go from that into post, and post is obviously heavily editorial, and I spend a lot of time in the edit room. And then ultimately the delivery of the film is a frantic and hectic final 4 weeks, and that also falls in my purview. When we look at a script, you're looking at, I think first and foremost, I'm always looking for, is there something in here we haven't done before? Is there something in here that the audience hasn't seen before? That's going to position the movie at a whole different place, certainly at the studio. And we're sort of digging for that. Is there something that we're going to be able to bring to this aesthetically, dramatically, of course, and technically, that ultimately will be, and I think I mentioned this earlier, it'll be both the experience of the audience, it'll also be, and this is very important, probably the key to the marketing. So when you do any movie, if you do a movie about Harry Potter and you imagine the magic, can we pull that off, can they fly on brooms, you're also thinking in the back of your mind, that's going to be the trailer. So we're looking through scripts very early on to find out what's the thing that we're going to latch on to, that we know we have to nail. And if we hit that, if we really nail that, we're going to have both the marketing for the film and we're going to have the thing that people will talk about after they see it. So that's really the first thing I'm looking for. Then, of course, you're doing sort of a practical assessment about, is there anything in here that's impossible? Is there anything in here that, well, is sort of sounds dumb? You might look for that as well. But I don't think we ever worry that a movie can't be made. The question really is can we find something in there that no one's seen before? There is the practical problems with making a movie and the things that you look for that are going to, as you say, keep you up at night. Is it possible to get, an army of people, to a beach in Mexico at a certain amount of time? Could we replicate a crowd to, within the budget parameters that we have? Those things are going to happen in any movie. The things that really keep me up at night, though, are going to be the politics that surround the hiring of people, the studio's take on the material, maybe what they're trying to do with bringing a director in to meet with a producer, and it's really the interpersonal relationships on the film that if they're not working, the film's not going to work. And those are the things you're massaging. As much as you're worrying about technique and technology, you're making sure that the people who are on the film are walking in step together. I think what I'm juggling most of the time is I am juggling the needs of the film, the needs of the filmmakers that are on there, the ever-shifting requests and needs of the studio. But also above that, there's kind of a responsibility to the business itself, too. Certainly to the visual effects business and the animation business, which is to try and, with every step I take, encourage competitiveness and innovation in the marketplace. I think a person in my position has a real role there to be kind of the wind in the sails of both those things. Because in the end, those are going to produce great movies. Those are the key to producing great movies or great work. I think for every, in the juggling of things, I think anybody in my shoes would say that if what you're doing is going to make the film better, it's the right step. And I know that sounds kind of cliche, but a really good movie is the best defense for any decision you make. At the end of the day, and a lot of the time you're out on a limb, and I think everybody in this business, in any aspect of it, gets out on a limb where they go, boy, I sure hope this is good. Because if it's not good, I'm either going to get fired or I'm going to take a lot of grief. But if the film's good, it's kind of all things are forgiven. So I think as an executive, as a filmmaker, I'm always willing to, to go out on that and go see it through. Because if we get past this, if we get to the point at which it's done, everything will be forgiven, and we'll all know that these choices we made that were so controversial at the time, in the end, were the right ones.